Stream live on YouTube.
Attendance.
Okay, let's go ahead and call the meeting to order, please.
Special meeting of Washington, Missouri City Council, January 22nd, 2018, 7 p.m. Brinker. Here. Heidrich. Holtmeyer.
Here.
Ohesky.
Aye.
Patchke.
Here.
Skornia. Here. Sullentrup.
Here.
Waterman.
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance.
Approval and adjustment of agenda.
Make motion to accept.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Brinker, seconded by Holtmeyer to approve the agenda. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the agenda. Thank you.
Ordinances and resolutions. An ordinance amending the 2018 budget for the City of Washington, Missouri.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer. Mary, or?
Is it on? This is a, yeah, I guess it's on.
Very good.
This is a budget amendment. Basically, we're doing two items. We are deleting the transfer station and adding the landfill phase 4-5 north design and construction. And then in addition, we are increasing the fire department purchase for the fire rescue truck for $50,000. And that's what Chief Holmick brought up at the last meeting. So we're doing both of those items in one budget amendment. Does anybody have any questions?
An ordinance amending the 2018 budget for the City of Washington, Missouri. Mohesky.
Aye.
Skornia.
Yes.
Brinker.
Yes.
Sullentrup.
Yes.
Waterman.
Yes.
Holtmeyer.
Aye.
Patke.
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a contract with McFry Excavating, Inc. for the Strickoff Sanitary Landfill Area 4-5 North Site Preparation.
Radke.
Introduced by Councilman Patke. John?
Okay, thank you all. I do have Andrea here as well if there's any specific questions, so she will be able to help us out. But as you are aware, we did go out to bid for pre-grading the last phase of the landfill. The idea was that if we could get this thing pre-graded while we were under design of the liner, that we could pick up some time. So that's what we did. We actually went out to bid. It was posted actually on MoDOT's website. We received quite a few bidders. They were pretty excited. It's good timing. As you can see there with the engineer's estimate and the bid that we actually received, we're doing pretty decent. The dollar number I was actually very happy with. So we're asking to move forward with that contract. McFry Excavating has not worked within the City of Washington before. I did call some contacts that I've had who've worked for them. I knew an individual actually worked for them, and an individual that worked for a company that was a prime contractor, and the good recommendations, did not see any issues. Really, it's relatively low risk. They're essentially digging a hole, and they're moving dirt, and they're stockpiling dirt. So I'm asking you to move forward with this contract. The completion date of this pre-grading is March 30th. So we're going to move pretty quick on this.
Now, will that help us save money for the liner? Will that be a separate bid then, the liner?
The liner will be a separate bid, correct. But what we're going to do is we're going to stockpile the clay material close to where this phase is. So we got two dirt moving operations going on at the same time.
Okay,
So it will help us.
good.
Any other questions?
Thanks for looking into the contractor. That was one of my questions. He's never been here before. And then some of the bid numbers were extraordinarily a lot higher, but we're still confident that it's going to be okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you look there, I mean, Kolb Grading, I mean, I'm sure everyone's heard of Kolb, but they were actually fairly excited. And you also look local contractors, KJU and Howell were relatively in the ballpark. Right. So, I mean, we were pretty confident with the numbers. And I mean, once again, you're digging a hole. It's not like you're not putting pipe together. This is pretty simple. I mean, get some tractors, get some scrapers, and move the dirt. So,
Any other questions?
tomorrow. Fast, by the way. Move the dirt fast.
Okay.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a contract with McFry Excavating, Inc. for the Strickoff Sanitary Landfill Area 4-5 North Site preparation. Moheski.
Aye.
Scornia.
Yes.
Brinker.
Yes.
Sullentrup.
Yes.
Waterman.
Yes.
Holtzmeyer.
Aye.
Patke.
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a contract with SCS Engineers for permitting, design, and construction management for the Strickoff Sanitary Landfill Area 4-5 North Site.
Patke.
Introduced by Councilman Patke. John?
Okay, this contract is with our consultant at the landfill. It essentially will do the construction management of moving that dirt. They got to test it to make sure the clay material that we're getting is adequate enough to build the liner. In addition, they will be doing the design of that liner, and then they'll be doing the testing, construction management of the liner. So this will be a holistic contract that'll take us all the way to the end of this thing being constructed.
Any questions or comments?
An ordinance authorizing, directing the execution of a contract with SCS Engineers for permitting, design, and construction management for the Strickoff Sanitary Landfill Area 4-5 North Site. Moheski.
Aye.
Scornia.
Yes.
Brinker.
Yes.
Sullentrup.
Yes.
Waterman.
Yes.
Holtzmeyer.
Aye.
Patke.
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
An ordinance approving a boundary adjustment to amend the Front Street Development Plan, or Plat 2, Phase 1, in the City of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri.
Holtmeyer.
Introduced by Councilman Holtmeyer. Sal?
Yes, this is just a real quick amendment, a simple amendment to Plat 2 of the Front Street development. This is the lot at corner of Front and Market. If you remember, you guys all approved a plat for this just a couple months ago. Actually, it's probably just a month ago. And what happened was that they came back and they realized some of the building plans came back and they were 6 inches shorter, narrower in size, but with 0 lot lines. You know, you have to then amend the plat to follow the wall line, or else all the buildings will be a little bit off of the property. So they came forward with just a quick plat amendment. It looks exactly the same as before. All the easements are there. It's just instead of 130, or instead of 32 feet wide, I think it's 31.5. So it's, you know, just a little bit shorter on each one. So, but they still show all the easements, and if you remember the vacation that we did here, they still have the comments, the notes that we requested last time.
Except for the last one, right?
What's that?
Except for the far east one?
R 137.
Yeah, this one's a little bit wider, 37. So, and they still show the 4 foot off the property line. They did get a variance to go up to 0 from the Board of Zoning Adjustment, but they don't need the full 0 lot line there. They're actually going to be 4 feet off, so.
Sal, will you look in, after we passed this about a month ago, a few people have asked me that the comprehensive plan suggested that we not approve flag lots, but yet we made it look as though it was well and good. So I just want to make sure that, are we going against what we had planned?
Yeah, well, it's not necessarily the comprehensive plan. I would say flag lots are generally discouraged because of they're abnormal. There's normally not a reason for them. Because of the fact that there's going to be a private lot or private street behind here, and they're going to be addressed off Market, they needed some type of right-of-way frontage along Market, and that was really the only way to do it. The C3 zoning doesn't require a minimum street frontage, so that they didn't need a variance to do this, but essentially, it's really just abnormal on paper. In reality, when the road's there and they have the cross-access easement, but a good way to describe it is we wouldn't normally approve a flag lot, say in a commercial development, if someone wants to have, say, like a big box store, and they just want a sliver to go up and touch the highway frontage, we would discourage it instead, say, no, you need to plan it in a way that each lot has equal frontage, so you can actually get adequate access. But in this case, it was a unique and peculiar situation that they needed the flag lots to get the right-of-way frontage.
Plus, doesn't the C2 zoning district require?
Yeah, C2, in other zone districts, there's a minimum right-of-way frontage they have to meet, so.
I would also add that when we were looking and working with the developer, we noticed that as well. You know, flag lots are not always the best option. And one of the options we ran was to make that like a market spur or a city street,
an actual city
essentially.
street back there.
And after reviewing, that really doesn't make a whole lot of sense because we would have to get in there and maintain it. Where are we going to push snow? Where are we going to do all this work? When really it's their parking lot. So this was the only mechanism that we had in order to get those, those units
Okay.
essentially in there.
I just didn't want to contradict with what those before us had said, this is our plan, and then we go against it because we did one, there's going to be the consensus, but
Outside of the
That's what's
central
best.
business district or that C3 district, typically we would discourage that, but in this case, you know, it's.
So
in
it's
the
going to be a
downtown
private street.
it's not.
It's actually not even a private street, it's just a cross-access easement across the back, very similar. Yeah, it's
private
private,
driveway.
but it's,
Will not be maintained.
it's going to be the same as Rhine River. Yeah.
Any other questions, comments?
An ordinance approving a boundary adjustment to amend the Front Street Development Plat 2, Phase 1 in the city of Washington, Franklin County, Missouri. Moheski.
Aye.
Scornia.
Yes.
Brinker.
Yes.
Solentrup.
Yes.
Waterman.
Yes.
Holtzmeyer.
Aye.
Patke.
Yes.
By your vote, you approve the ordinance. Thank you.
Real quick.
Mayor's report.
Hold on.
Mary, are we going to extend the utilities underground on this one too?
Yes, this is part of, this is at the corner of,
Market in front?
yeah, Market in front, so the underground utilities start pretty much in this location. I think there's a transformer planned actually in this location.
That is correct. The utilities will actually extend up Market.
Market off the front.
To, yep, up Market,
To Main
along
Street.
this to actually Main Street. That's the pole we got to go up.
Yeah.
So there's going to be work along there as well.
And that was some of the concern where the pull and feed store, since we're going to be tearing up the sidewalk to Bear Utilities, there was a concern that wouldn't be able to maintain that. It would
The
basically
wall.
fall into the street, the wall would fall into the street. So that's why there was, they received a demolition permit for that building, so.
Any other questions?
Mayor's report, letter to Franklin County, Prop P.
Okay, at your seat this evening is the final draft of the letter that has been proposed to send to the Franklin County Commission. Certainly, the language in it has changed from the letter that we had debated last week when we were at our meeting, and the letter that we had originally looked at. There's nothing in this particular letter about a resolution of non-support or anything, but basically what we're doing in this particular letter is to just identify our concerns. And I think that this is what you all requested last week, some of the language that you were looking for. So with that said, after our meeting last week, I was pretty frustrated with everything that's been going on for the last 30 days regarding Prop P. I felt like that over and over we had asked questions and we were never getting the answers. You know, there was a great attempt go to not answer our questions or to not allow us to have discussion. And I was very frustrated because I feel like we work real hard to answer questions here at the City of Washington, and when people have concerns, we go above and beyond to attempt to figure it out for them. And I was really frustrated that we couldn't get anywhere with a simple discussion. So I took it upon myself to call Chief Menifee, who then called Sheriff Pelton. I wanted to sit down and visit with Sheriff Pelton and Sheriff Telke and really sit down and talk to them and explain where we were coming from for this and really kind of express my frustrations, which I did. They were very gracious. Chief and I went over to visit with them on Friday morning at 10 o'clock. I'm sorry we took so much time. It was about an hour and a half that we were over there with you. But I kind of explained my personal frustrations with this whole ordeal from top to bottom. And you know, I had a lot of my questions answered. I mean, they were able to answer. They were very forthright and honest, and I felt much, much better after it was over, because I feel like our law enforcement is in good hands with them. I'm not so confident in other areas, I'll be quite honest with you, but I feel like our law enforcement is in good hands with them. So anyway, they are here this evening in case you all have any questions. One of the questions that we had, our first concern is that, of course, was that there's nothing in the ballot language, does not reflect that equal division. I think Susan was addressing that last month. It is in the commission order. It's my understanding from these gentlemen that happens quite often, and you all work real hard to get what was promised to you. And I think Sheriff Telke has had that effort in the past, has had to make that effort a few times on different things that were promised, and then all of a sudden things were changing, and he's had to go back and make sure that he got what was due. So they recognize that one. They recognize our concern with that. The distribution we had talked about, I did find out that even though that it is with an arbitrary number, with the numbers, the formula that Sheriff Pelton showed me was how they had come up. The chiefs throughout this county had approved that way of dividing the funds. Cities would get more money if sales tax increased. If sales tax increased in a year, then you would get additional funds because they wouldn't just hold that back, so you'd get more per officer, which was one thing that was different, that had never really been explained to us. They also felt that by doing it by the number of officers, you wouldn't have as much disparity from the smallest communities to the largest communities, right? Sheriff Pelton, if I remember right, you said that you would be open to a review board, that we could look at this on a basis?
Yes,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken, I think we've already agreed, correct me if I'm wrong, Chief Menifee, I think we're meeting once a year. If that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I think we've already agreed to meet once a year, didn't we?
Can you come up to the podium?
You told me that last week, I should apologize. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, I think we agreed to meet once a year on that, didn't we? And review the distribution, all the chiefs and sheriff?
We had talked about that, but then we
Yeah.
had our discussions with the commission and things became a little complicated.
Yeah, it's my understanding we are meeting once a year. Yes, ma'am.
Now, I know we did all get an email from John today telling us that we couldn't do that, though.
Well,
Or basically that, which I thought that wasn't really the point that we were making.
Well, and the way I took the email today from Presiding Commissioner Griesheimer was the fact that we were asking for a review board to be formed, and his answer was that the county commission is the only one that can change a budget or be the guidance in the budgetary decision. And I guess it was never my decision if Sheriff Pelton and the chiefs from the local area as a review board is all I'm asking for, and then Sheriff Telke and Pelton can go to the county commission and hold their decision to the fire. That's what it should go for. That's really all I was looking for. I wasn't looking for someone to be a new government entity for the commission. So in his answer today, it wasn't exactly what I was looking for. But if we're reviewing with chiefs from every municipality and the sheriff's department, then I think that's what needs to be done, no doubt.
But I don't think that the county commission is on board with that. I mean, maybe the chiefs decided to do that, but given what Commissioner Brinker said last week in emails and in person, and then also what Commissioner Griesheimer sent to us today, it doesn't sound like the commission has any intention of utilizing that. Was that everyone else's perception as well?
I got that impression from it today, yes, so.
Well, I can't speak for the commission because I don't know what they was thinking. I can tell you my interpretation from that meeting is exactly what I was just talking to Chief Menifee about, that we're going to get together once a year for transparency to the taxpayer to say, this is what we've done over this last year. And quite frankly, I think being fiscally responsible, the taxpayers owed that explanation. So, and if a person increased services or competitive wages, how it's helped with recruitment and retainment, which is some of the issues that every municipality and the sheriff's office in Franklin County is dealing with, the 4 issues there.
So I guess I understand, so you as the chiefs are going to do this regardless, and then whether or not the county commission deems that that's something that they want you to do, you're going to do that regardless as a group of chiefs, and then you'll send it to the commission whether they want it or not, is basically what you're...
We are going to do it, yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
very good, thank you.
You're welcome. Was there any other questions, Mayor or Alder members?
Well, Griesheimer's making a lot of decisions, and he's stepping off. He's not running for re-election. He's speaking for something he has no power on, or he's not going to be held accountable for because he's resigning. He's not running for re-election.
It's not to the end.
This thing I just think is a rush to get it on the ballot. I don't like the way it's worded. I support the police, but I don't like the way this is worded at all.
Okay, sir, I don't have no control over the
I
wording of that.
understand.
Yes. The only thing I know is this initiative is important. This initiative is really important for the safety and security of the citizens of Franklin County. We're losing a lot of seasoned law enforcement officers that, quite frankly, are going to do the same job for better pay. And this will help with the recruitment part of that. I know my agency alone, we've had 6 openings for some time. And in retainment is key too. We're losing great officers, and I can't fault them for leaving. Matter of fact, I've written a couple of fantastic letter of recommendations because the deputies earned it. Bottom line is they just have to go for other stuff. So the initiative's important.
I talked to an officer from another municipality. He was either in Franklin or Jefferson or St. Louis County, and I asked him would he consider taking a position in Washington or for the county, and when he told me the difference in pay, I was shocked.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I was shocked.
Yeah, depending how you do the numbers, we range 27%, 28%, and 32% less money than St. Louis County and municipalities that we track that the sheriff's office and local municipalities have lost people to. That's where we garnered the data, and also St. Charles County. And it's no secret that Jefferson County has an initiative on their ballot also. And if that Prop P goes there also, that's going to be another draw for our area for more agencies.
Well, and therefore, I'm not against it, but I'm more for a better way of wording it so you don't run into this in the future and lose the funding as just as much as it is not having it from today or going forward. That's exactly my fear, and backing the fact that we have this problem and that we can fix it, not allow the county commission to put the money where they want in 2, 5, 10 years from now.
Right.
It's supposed to.
It shouldn't be the case that something like this passes, and then you as the chiefs have to fight for it after the fact. That's what we're all, I think, very concerned about.
I think with transparency in the commission orders and making a promise to the public means something. Your word and your integrity is everything when it comes to the public that we serve. So I think if somebody says something, they better mean it. So.
We've been looking for sincerity. So anyway, would you speak a little bit, of which I received tremendous sincerity over with you guys the other day. Would you speak a little bit to your jail needs?
Yes.
Also, because this is together, and
Sure.
And I know that you've been discussing the idea of a new jail facility apparently for at least a year, or coming up on a year or whatever, maybe even longer. You had tried to do something
We've been
many
talking
years
about a
ago.
new jail facility since 2003, I believe, Sheriff? 2002, actually. Since 2002. Originally, when that jail was constructed, it was constructed stemming from a lawsuit that Franklin County was involved in that mandated us to do something because of the inadequate space and the conditions of the old jail. So in 1986, when that jail opened up, it opened up as a 107-bed facility. Excuse me. Well, 107 beds wasn't enough. we reached a point where we had to increase the bed capacity. And we took that to a 130-bed facility. And how we was able to do that, I say we, Sheriff Tulkey was able to do that, was increase bunk beds any place that he could put a bunk bed. But we have to be in ACA standards, which is a standard set forth by American Correctional Association, and also be PREA compliant, which is Prison Rape Elimination Act. So there's guidelines that jails have to go by. So we've taken that to 130 beds. Year to date, our average daily population is 149. So basically, we've averaged 19 over capacity. Quite frankly, on some of the weekends and stuff, and we've got people sleeping on the floor. We've used the chapel area to house inmates. And if the plan B in regards to that was add the bunk beds. So when we needed another plan B, about 2 years ago, a pretrial release supervision was implemented. I talked to the facilitator, Hattie Daly, the other day. We've had close to 300 to 350 people that's been released under the pretrial release program. And what that is there's an assessment that's done. If this person is a nonviolent offender to the community, their bond is either lowered or they're recogged, so we're getting it out of our facility. However, quite frankly, although it's helped, it hasn't solved the problem. Today, the count was 151 this morning when I walked through the door. So the only thing that I have left to do is house outside at another facility, which is not uncommon. Washington County houses outside at another facility. The facilities around us right now are all in the same boat we are. They're overcrowded, overpopulated. So if I can find a facility to outsource inmates to, the cost of that is $50 a day, which costs the taxpayer. So if I can just bump that 19 up to 20 inmates over, just for the sake of pulling the numbers out pretty quick, every day, if I was to get back in compliance to 130 inmates, I would have to house out 20 inmates. Is everybody with me so far? $50 a day, that's $1,000 a day, $30,000 a month, $352,000 a year, taxpayers' money, your guys' money, the public's money that we don't get back. And them inmates in the facility, if I was to have to transport to another facility, I know Washington County, I believe, has some in St. Francis County, but we're looking at a couple hours off the road. That just doesn't apply to the people that my deputies arrest. That applies to the people that your city police arrest also. If there's no room there and we got to transport down there, you guys lost an officer off the street for 5 hours, as the same as I do. So that housing cost doesn't only apply to what we're going to pay for the housing cost, but we have to think of fuel, lost time because you don't have deputies there. So that's about the only avenue we got left right now, Mayor, to answer your question. Again, the sheriff's done a phenomenal job being fiscally responsible. We added bunk beds where we could, increased capacity. We're bulging at the seams. The pretrial release supervision program, a great program. It's helped to some degree. However, it didn't fix any part of the problem. We're still running on over by 19 inmates a day, and that's expected to go up. Every year it goes up, quite frankly. And when our people, and when I say our people, I'm talking about law enforcement in general, doesn't matter what type of shield's on their chest. When our people work hard, there's a cost associated with that. And you want your police officers being proactive and making good cases and not turning a blind eye. So when they work hard and they're making them good cases and they're getting people charged, they're doing the right thing. We're just out of room for where we can put people. So I hope that answered your question.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, you said very similar to this exact same thing that you said the other day when I was over there with you. And so, but I found it interesting, and I didn't know if our council members had ever heard that before.
Sure.
So, anyway.
With the new jail, will there be a cap on how many people that we can house for other counties? Like you were just talking about, having to outsource. Is there a cap on how many we would allow other counties to send to us?
If another sheriff contacted me and asked if we could help facilitate that and if we could house somebody for them, if there was room, I would take them. But currently, we're not housing for any other county right now.
Right.
So,
You do hold them overnight for another county.
oh, sure. If somebody makes an arrest, we'll hold them until they get a chance to get a transport team up there. Quite frankly, with our jail being overcrowded, we have spent some taxpayers' money when we get somebody arrested, for example, up in Greene County, or if they're close, no big deal, we can get them. But if it takes time to facilitate and get somebody to come in and do that, sometimes they're there 2 days before we get them. And yes, same thing happens to us. And then we get billed for that, as well as they do.
Is it, you said it's $50 a day that is taxpayer expense for Franklin County if we have to house somewhere else. Is that a cap that's set by the state? So is that the amount that the Franklin County would get paid for housing someone else's, another county?
Franklin County does get $50 a day, yes, ma'am. That's kind of the norm out there. And that is set by the commission. And what it is we garner what, food, the services, the manpower, the portion of the electric, the water. And there was an assessment, extensive assessment made, and that formula comes up with about $50. And that's the normal. I think there's a couple sheriff's offices that charge $45 a day, but the norm is $50 a day.
That's for every inmate, not just the ones from out of county.
Yes, sir.
But the other counties would have to pay that cost if they were housing people in Franklin County.
Yes,
Right.
yes, they would.
What about federal? I know we don't currently house any federal because we don't have space, but is that something that would be a norm if we would have a larger jail and have the capability to expand that? Is that a contract sort of thing, or is that an as-needed basis as well?
It is a contract sort of thing. When we entered into that years ago, and Sheriff, you might have to correct me if I'm wrong, when we entered into that contract years ago, there was available space to be able to do that. However, I think we was the only one in the market. So we did transports and stuff. When it kind of dried up, as a lot of not municipalities, but a lot of agencies closer towards St. Louis got into that lucrative market. I know when I started out in the jail for Sheriff Tulkey 28 years ago, we averaged around 30 federal inmates in a 107-bed facility. The rest was county. That number kept changing as more county inmates goes up. Quite frankly, at a 250-bed facility, we don't have the room to be housing federal prisoners.
So we don't do that anymore in the county?
We haven't done that for 15 years, Sheriff? At least 15.
They used to pay a pretty good sum of money for you to house them.
Can you come up?
They used to pay a pretty good sum of money to house federal inmates, and we also got into a transportation agreement. They were paying about $68 per inmate a day, but that also has gone away. Basically, they're paying just about minimum now, so it's not really cost effective to house them. I mean, if you got space and they need space, you can do it, but that option that we had many years ago, which really proved to be good for the county and good for the sheriff's office, has kind of gone by the wayside.
Is there a county that doesn't have this problem?
The St. Louis area, Jefferson County just built a facility a couple of years ago. St. Charles County, I think they're relatively stable, but I'm not sure. I don't think Gasconade County even has a jail. I think they
house outside.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions from council members?
I don't have a question, but I can make a comment. We as councilmen here, we have to sit in and listen to all the problems like you do. We form a committee for our half-cent sales tax, and we, like everybody else, find a way to piggyback something so we can get something passed to make a better community. Now, I know Franklin County's doing that, and you got to do what you got to do to get what you need. But as far as back in the blue, like you guys were talking about, if you didn't have that, I don't know if this would pass for you guys. So I'm still saying what I said last week. I stick up for Franklin County, and I stick up for Washington. Hopefully we can all work together to get these problems all fixed.
Well, I think that's a standpoint moving forward. I have always stood here with open arms saying we need to move forward as a community. This is where all Franklin County residents is. So I appreciate your comment.
Anything else? Okay.
Appreciate it, folks.
Thank you for
Take
being
care.
here. Really appreciate it. Okay, so any comments regarding the letter?
Your Honor, the letter basically states, we as a city and what we suggest or what we would recommend, but not what we are expecting as a, I guess as approval or disapproval for the proposition. Is that correct?
Right.
We stand as, this is a City of Washington moves forward with these recommendations and these are concerns.
These are the concerns that we have.
Right.
We're not saying any of them are, these are just the issues that we have and the issues that we had questions on.
Make a motion, we send it.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. We have a motion by Holtmeyer, seconded by Waterman, to go ahead and send the letter.
And when we send this letter, are we saying that we are against it, or are we in favor of it?
Neither.
We're not saying either. We're saying these are our suggestions, correct? That was my question or my last statement.
These are just suggestions, not for or against.
These are our concerns that, that we have regarding the tax. So we're not really saying we're for or against, we're just saying our concerns. We're putting our concerns in writing so that they're in writing. So,
And we feel the taxpayers should vote it in or how they feel necessary,
right,
not based on what we say.
okay. So we have a motion by Holtmeyer, seconded by Waterman, to go ahead and send the letter. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, we'll get this out tomorrow. We have our comments in there. So, anyway, okay. Thank you.
Nice job.
Yeah? Okay, hey, thanks for being here, and thanks again for your support, okay? Take care.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Brinkers, seconded by Holtmeyer, to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By the vote, we're adjourned.
I'll call the next one to order.
Hold on. Okay. Go ahead and call the next meeting to order.
Administration Operations Committee meeting Monday, January 22nd, 2018, 7:38 PM. Brinker.
Here.
Heidrich. Holtmeyer.
Here.
Moheski.
Here.
Patke.
Here.
Scornia.
Here.
Sullentrup.
Here.
Waterman.
Here.
Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Will all the committee members answer if they have or have not read the minutes of the meeting dated November 27th, 2017? Brinker?
Yes.
Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Moheski?
Aye.
Patke?
Yes.
Scornia?
Yes.
Sullentrup? Waterman?
Yes.
Having read the minutes, are there any comments or questions?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Brinkers, seconded by Holtmeyer, to approve the minutes from our last meeting dated November 27, 2017. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you approve the minutes. Thank you.
Capital Improvement Sales Tax Presentation.
You should have a handout, I think, looks similar to this. Thank you. Everybody's got a copy, that's good. You've got them by department, the projects, and the estimated costs. And John Beekmeyer, our chair of our Capital Improvement Sales Tax Committee, is here. But I'd like to go ahead and just let you know, these are the projects that the committee's been working on since, I guess, October is when we first met. Was that right? October?
Yes, October.
And went through November and December, and then the first couple weeks of January here, refined this to try to get this within a budget. They had shot for a budget of somewhere between 16 to 16.5 million on the projects. As you can see on the page 2, with the total of what the estimate of what they've received from departments, you're looking at approximately $16,359,600. We tried, as you can see, the lion's share of stuff is within the Parks Department this time. There are some other highlight projects with the Fire Department, the additional pumper truck, additional fire station, and as you know, as Chief has pointed out, that study is ongoing right now. But of course, with the parks, the big item that you still see is that the $4 million towards a new pool house and aquatic complex. The aquatic complex, I think it was the consensus of the committee that obviously this was the largest project out of all of them, but they felt that what they wanted to convey to you was that this would be something that they would look at as at minimum to replace your existing aquatic complex that we have, with the opportunity though to pursue other avenues with also with, say, for example, the YMCA, if you wanted to go ahead and do a partnership for them for pool passes, for example. So those are still things that could be done, but in selling this to the public, I think the committee was looking at that at minimum we would replace our aquatic complex and then work on that partnership. It was also talked about very extensively about the need to go ahead and have a study done to find out what type of aquatic complex would work best for the city, what's the most beneficial, what gets the most users, et cetera. And so that was discussed quite a bit. But in the end, they realized that they needed to just come up with a budgetary number for you. And then that was something that as we move forward, the council would go ahead and take under advisement to go ahead and create such a committee and such a study to go ahead and be looked at. So that was the large. There was also, we broke down the parks projects into parks maintenance, parks rehab, and then park improvements, and try to break those out. But most of you have attended the meetings or at least heard about it. And John, do you have any words you'd like to go ahead and?
Thank you, Darren. John Vietmeyer, Tax Committee Chairman. I think we worked pretty hard. The city staff, I should say, worked very hard. When we first started this 3 months ago, we were talking about, I think, $25,000 worth of projects.
26 million.
26. And the committee worked with all of the department heads, and the department heads among themselves rearranged and reconsidered where this money, should be spent on behalf of the city, behalf of the citizens. So I think we've got a good rounded approach to the ongoing infrastructure of our city, the fire safety, the police improvements, the sirens, the other data systems improvements. We've also got a good mix of parks and recreation. And then a portion of the whole campaign is for the ongoing maintenance of things. And that was one of our big questions with the committee. We had new members on the committee this year, and one of the challenges was, are we using a sales tax money for maintenance things should be considered part of the budget on an ongoing basis. So I think we did well at addressing that. And I think the maintenance items that are left, they're not the normal day-to-day maintenance items that we're talking about. We're talking about maintaining some of the historic buildings, some of the maintenance items that come into a park where you talk about maintaining and providing the quality of life and pavilions and other structures. So all in all, I think the committee's done an outstanding job of getting this down to 16 million and some change. The challenge now, of course, is to be able to put together a marketing program to go to the citizens. And I think with the safety issues that we're talking about, the fire safety, police safety, the radio, the communications and those things, as well as parks and recreation, We're going to go to the citizens. We're going to talk about maintaining what we have in a safe community, in a clean and maintained community, and to enhance the quality of life with these enhancements we're talking about with an aquatic complex. And we don't know what that really means, and that's going to take some fine tuning as we come talk to groups. It's going to depend on what the questions of the group are, but we definitely are going to have a study to make sure that when we spend in excess of $3 million, $4 million, that we want to do it right and not turn around 8 years from now and have a big problem. So as we move forward in promoting this tax renewal, we're going to be talking about what we've done in the past. We've been doing this now for 16 years, and this community's been very successful. And so we're going to take that in combination with our new plan, and we'll be starting to visit with your blessing. We're going to move forward on this thing. So any questions that Darren and I might be able to have, or any suggestions that anybody has. A number of the councilmen have been participating in these committee meetings. We have 2 councilmen on the committee itself, so I think we've got pretty good representation.
John, on the $1 million for redevelopment, what does that pay for?
Redevelopment? In terms of economic development?
Economic development?
Isn't that $1 million for that?
Yes.
Yeah,
That would be-
infrastructure for a new park,
Yeah, infrastructure for a new park and/or matching funds for grants as they become
industrial
available.
park.
The $1 million will go towards infrastructure.
Infrastructure. Our match, typically, if, for example, if we open up a new area for industrial development and the company is willing to sign a participation agreement with the new jobs that they create, and they're signing that participation agreement, we can leverage $20,000 per job, basically. And all of that, but there is a match portion that the city is responsible for putting up towards that, and this would help with that match.
On that note, I have a suggestion for that section. Can we just insert the word industrial between new and park? Because that, so many times I've heard people say, well, how come that's not under parks? Because people don't realize it's for industrial park and not parks.
Duly noted, industrial park.
Yeah. Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Thank you. Do we need to accept this? Do we need to accept this into the minutes?
What we'll probably do is put this on the city council meeting next week and accept it into the minutes at that meeting, I guess. But we wanted to bring it to you tonight, just so if there's any preliminary comments that you may have. But we can go ahead and have a recommendation letter signed by the chair of the Capital Improvement Sales Tax Committee, as well as this list of projects that'll go with it then. But tonight, we just wanted to see if there was any questions that you have about those, so.
Well, yeah, I do have one more. Bill,
Yes, sir.
I know I spoke to you after the meeting the other day, and you had told me that you're going to try to rebuild a new fire station up there, and fire station number 3, was it?
Well, it'd probably be number 2. We don't have, when we consolidated 2 fire stations years ago from the Oaks parking lot right where we're at now and the Oak Street, 2nd and Oak, the headquarters at 4th and Lafayette, we consolidated companies. So it's always been a challenge for the insurance people and other fire departments. Where's your station 2? We have station 1 at 14th Street, we have 3 on West 5th, and we have 4 at 8th and Fulton. We don't have a 2. So it would probably be station 2.
Which one is that?
The new
On
one.
the South Point Road that we're talking about, if that's what the study
Is
comes
it going
out
to
to.
be compared to the one on 8th and Fulton or West 5th?
What's that?
Is it going to be comparative to those?
Yes, with very few changes. That number that I got for the sales tax from engineering was recently built for Rock Community. Rock Community is a career force, and there's a few things in there that are slightly different. But the money on Rock Community does not include any site work, which we think, based on work that they've done for the Korean War Veterans Home, that there would be some site work at that site. So we left the dollar amount the same to be closer to accurate for the new station. But the engineering charges or whatever will be pretty much, we've proven that the two stations 3 and 4 that were built in 1999, it's a very workable footprint. The engineering's done. They're resilient structures. They're UL 90 roof systems. They're earthquake proof. And that's the way we build fire stations we've built in the past with our volunteer forces, that weather events have come through Washington and our stations stand and serve the public. So by saving it, we could also save engineering, is what I'm saying, on a new station as well. Very little changes.
I went through some paperwork today, and maybe I'm missing something, I don't know. You got 2 point something for a
2.1
firehouse,
for the fire station.
right?
Yeah.
And I looked up those two that you built before, and you have 793,000 on both, and 773,000 for both of them.
Yeah, but if you look at the training center, which is most recently built, was 1.85.
But you said you're gonna mock 8, number 3, and number,
Yeah. Come close to 3 and 4, which are both masonry structures.
is there more to it or something?
Is there what?
Is there more to it?
No. No, that'd be pretty much the same, just market change. That's engineering estimates, it's not my number.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Patke, seconded by Holtmeyer to forward this on to council. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you forwarded it on. Thank you.
Report of department heads, public safety, police.
Chief?
I don't have a lot for you tonight. Crime-wise, with the weather, we are down in incidents. Of course, the past weekend was a little busy. Everybody had to get out and enjoy the weather. We're not seeing any change in our drug issues. We had 3 overdoses this month so far. 1 overdose definitely would have been a death if an officer hadn't been there. So he'll be getting a life-saving award, which we'll present at a council meeting in the future. During those cold spell we had, the hospital housed as a shelter people in the community, and they housed on average a night about 10 homeless people. It created some problems logistic-wise and personnel-wise for them at the hospital, but it was a service that these people would have frozen or had no place to go, so it was a very great humanitarian effort that they did. They used it again 2 weeks ago. Is that right? Again, to help these people that have maybe frozen in the cold otherwise. And then last Thursday we had the Crisis Intervention Team Council of Franklin County banquet. This is a council that runs our CIT group as officers that are trained in how to deal with people with mental issues. They're having episodes or whatever. And we do awards to recognize those officers that do exceptional well or an exceptional case that they handle. Officer Greg Garrett from our department received an award. So we'll bring him to the council one night to show you his award. Otherwise, I have nothing else.
Any questions, comments? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Fire protection.
Bill?
In keeping with the timeline we discussed at the council meeting when the rescue truck was approved, a purchase requisition has been submitted to the city. That is signed off. That will go to Pierce Apparatus and our purchase consultorium, and they will review the bid and the bid amounts and process. Based on the consultorium findings, they provide the paperwork back for Mary. So when we get this completed, hopefully next week, she will have not only all the city paperwork that she needs, but all the documents from HGAC to pass muster for the city audits, finance audits, in the future for the truck. So been working with Mary on that, and that's in the works to meet the time deadline and save $4 14,000 and change. The other big item worth mentioning is Mercy is in the process of reviewing the medical protocols for all the entities that work under Mercy for medical response. We do basic life support with optional EMT training for members, and Mercy's changing the skill sets that go with those definitions: basic life support, AED, and first aid, and EMT, which is within our protocol scope of operation. The reason it becomes significant, I want to tell you about it, is because in the process of updating those protocols and reviewing the changes in the skill sets and the training requirements, there may be an impact on our liability insurance coverage for medical calls. So I've been working with Mary. I've got the forms filled out for travelers for Daniel Henry, and we need to have a conference call. I've already met with the staff at Mercy, and Doc Mohart, Annie, our volunteer medical officer advisor, is walking point to finalize those skill sets with Mercy, and then we'll get with Mary and the insurance company and see what impact, if any, there is on the cost of our medical liability coverage. And Saturday night is our annual ladies' night. It's the time that we set aside to recognize the contribution that spouses make to their firefighter husbands, or vice versa. We have some lady firefighters that have husbands as well, so that'll be Saturday night at Our Lady of Lourdes. And a lot of people don't know it, but for coverage purposes and help us, first out we have Marthasville agrees to move an engine company over here every year and man in our station. So they would answer what we call still alarms, which are one unit type responses: a car fire, a medical emergency, that kind of thing. If it gets to first alarms, we have other units that have to stand by that night and not party quite as much as everybody else. But we're looking forward to recognizing the ladies and some other members, their spouses, through dedicated service over the last year. And we thank you for financing that.
Any questions of Bill? Okay, thank you.
Communications.
Lisa?
I'm still working with Motorola on our radio system. There was a snag within the system, and the lines in that they were failing. So they're trying to get a piece of equipment that will pinpoint what's actually causing the test to fail. It's something to do with, Robert, are you down there? Yeah. Tell me, I'm sorry. It has something to do with the, can you speak to that a little bit?
I think she's referring to the latency of the network.
Yeah, it's creating some files when they're sending information across. It's according to Motorola specs, it's failing. So until they can get a piece of equipment on our system so that they can pinpoint the time, we can then check with the IT department, with Greg Johnston, and see if there is something within our system that's actually causing that spike. But right now, it is failing it. So they're trying to, they don't have the piece of equipment, they have to borrow it from another company.
So is that impacting?
I'm sorry?
How is that affecting our 911 system?
It's not. So we're still operating on our old radio system, which is still being ran on, we have the backups that are, in the station, but we're still unfortunately tied to AT&T circuits for our main transmitters. We had hoped to already be off of it by now, but until they can figure out what's causing the problem, we can't switch to the new radio system. All the equipment is sitting there. It looks really nice, but we can't use it.
Okay.
So is it just a lag issue? Is that what is going on?
If I'm not mistaken, the tolerance for their round-trip communication is 50 milliseconds, and during a 24-hour period, we exceeded that by 3 milliseconds for an undetermined amount of time.
And they can't figure out where it is in order for us to track down to see if maybe there's something within our, they run their test for 24-hour period, and within that 24-hour period it's failing, but they can't tell us at what time it is. So we don't know if there's something on the city's network that then kicks in at a certain time, which is causing it to fail. So without knowing when it is, we don't know where to look.
So it's not the case that our network, because we just updated our.
No,
network,
no, no.
So like the
No.
network is capable of it.
Right.
It's just that
Right.
there's some draw on
There's
it.
some
Okay.
very specific guidelines that Motorola says our system needs to meet. And Greg Johnson, he's been meeting with Motorola, trying to get it all worked out. We may switch it up to a VPN, if I'm not mistaken.
We're exploring the avenue as to connect our sites more reliably.
So we just don't want to put emergency services on there if they think that there's going to be a dropout of anything. So other than that, hired a new person first part of January. She's been there for a little over a week now. She comes to us from Osage County. Is that Lynn? Is that in Osage County?
Yep.
Okay, so she came from Osage County. She has about 8 years of experience, so I already have her answering phones and keying stuff into CAD. I have another one in training, and I currently have an opening. And that's about it.
Any questions of Lisa? Okay, thanks, Lisa.
Emergency management?
Mark?
Good evening. Completed projects for the past month or so. The NIMS, the Incident Management 100 classes were completed for city employees 2 weeks ago. We're continuing to send out monthly safety tips to all employees and other tips as appropriate if an event pops up. The Safety Injury Subcommittee investigated the last incidents for 2017. We had a meeting in September or October, I believe, and we still had a few incidents from the remainder of the year. So those injuries and accidents have all been reviewed and recommendations made to administration. We held our last safety committee meeting last Thursday. The next meeting will be in April. In progress, the incident management, the IS 700 classes will be January 25th and 26th. Those are the national response framework classes to how we would fit in the larger scale incidents like larger scale floods like we're prone to have. CPR certifications for police will be 3 days during February coming up. We'll be offering some CPR classes to any interested city employees or council members in the next couple of weeks. So you can watch email for dates and times when that will occur. The ratio is 6 to 1, so I can handle up to 6 people at one time. So we'll just continue to offer classes. I'll continue to visit job sites to help build job safety. Working on our annual report, the compilation of stuff Bill handled for the first part of the year and what I finished up, so hope to have that for you for next month. Be contacting nursing homes and residential care to obtain updated copies of their emergency plans. That hasn't been done for a couple of years, several years, so it's time to get updated plans. Been working with KMOV Channel 4 to host in Washington their spring storm team visit, where they bring their staff of meteorologists out and do education and do some live shots on the news, etc. So that's just been a matter of trying to coordinate the gym versus the dates and times they have available. And as you can imagine, the schools are all having trouble. You know, most of those places are booked just about every day with their activities, so just trying to work that in. Statewide tornado drill will be March 6th at 10 o'clock in the morning, and I'm looking at IS 100 for the elected officials class. That's similar to what we just did for all the city employees. It's just catered a little more towards public officials, and kind of looking at maybe February 22nd. So I'll shoot out an email to you folks. I was just looking at the calendar here while other things were going on, so we'll shoot for that and see if that works for everyone. And that's all I have.
We try that in the evening, Mark?
Yes, yeah, thank you, yeah. That would be evening class, probably like a 7 o'clock or something like that, if that'll work best for most people, so they're already home and just like a council meeting.
And I guess I'd like to appreciate the notices, bridge closures, weather warnings, et cetera, and I guess I'd recommend continuing those if you don't mind. Those are, there's good updates, so appreciate that.
Okay, good.
Anything else? Thank you.
Parks and Recreation?
The first item I have tonight is a bid recommendation for Tyler Parks and Recreation Software and Services. One of the main goals of the Parks and Recreation Department this year was to identify and implement alternative methods to take registrations and those sort of things. And in doing so, we looked at different Parks and Recreation software. Our current software is not compatible with Tyler, and we have to do double entries, those sort of things. And after reviewing several different software, we reviewed the Tyler software. It is compatible with our financial package. It is a cloud-based, so we don't have to buy any other servers or have storage on site. Been working with Robert and Mary Sprung on this. And this will allow us, once we get it up and running, is that we can do some web-based registrations and we can finally accept credit and debit cards. And so we went out and we had $20,000 budgeted in this year's budget, and they've come back with a price of $17,444, so we are under budget on this.
We need a motion to do that now?
All right, motion to send it to council.
Make a motion to send it to council.
Second.
We have a motion by Sullentrup, seconded by Brinker, to send this item on to council. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Or your
The
vote
next
you
item
sent
I
it
have on here is just to give an update that we'll be bringing forward hopefully at the next council meeting. Staff has been working for several months looking at our, well, actually years on our bucket trucks. We've looked at it. We've had several issues with our two bucket trucks. One's in 1997, and the other one's in 1998. These are bucket trucks that are pretty much shared by three departments with the water, wastewater, street department, and Parks and Recreation. In doing so, Chad Owens has really looked into these trucks, and we tried to do a study of what we need to do. He's looked at used trucks, new trucks, looked at comparisons, trying to identify all of our needs for all of our departments. And in doing so, we basically looked at them, and from a pricing standpoint, since we can implement intergovernmental cooperative purchasing agreement like we have done on mowers and some other apparatus, we can get a cheaper price and we can get brand new trucks. He did an apples to apples comparison to the two main companies and looked at it, and we feel that Turex provides us with the best option. In doing so, we're still trying to work out some details with that. But we had roughly $630,000 budgeted. If we go with this, we'd come in about $100,000 less at $530,000.
Tony, didn't you try to get one once? Didn't you come in here for a bucket truck one time?
No.
Thought there was another department that needed a bucket truck.
You talking about the train truck for water and wastewater?
Yeah, was it you?
Well truck.
We got a utility truck with a crane on the side.
Yeah, okay. So how big is this bucket truck gonna go?
We have two bucket trucks. One's a 40-foot truck, the other's a 100-foot truck, and it just replaces what we have right now.
But it'll be usable in the street department?
Yes. Yes, it'll be,
They
it will
use
be
it.
utilized by all three
Department
departments.
uses it.
Yeah.
There you go.
So you're going from 3 to 2?
No, just
two
two for
to
two.
two.
Two for two.
2 for 2.
Replacement.
And
The
Chad,
plan
if
was-
you have any technical questions, Chad did the majority of the work on this,
trucks?
he'll be able to.
Yeah, a big truck and a smaller bucket truck.
The 40-foot and the 100-foot.
Okay.
Replacement
And
both.
the original plan, well, the original plan in this budget year was to buy used ones because they were so expensive, and they've done the research.
Yeah, and after doing the research and looking at it, one, trying to find used trucks that had all the options and everything that all three departments needed to operate, and then if we could find one, would they be available by the time that we were looking to purchase? But like I said, since we belong to this purchasing agreement group, that we are able to get it a brand-new truck for, like I said, a cheaper price than buying some of the used trucks.
That's good. I guess I know there's nothing we can do about it now. I guess in the future, it'd be nice to have it have one and then have the other one in 3 or 4 years from now, as opposed to both of them at the same time. But again, I know that's something we can't control, but it'd be something to think about in the future when it's time to budget for a new one. We don't have to do them in the same year.
Right.
But
And so we're trying to finalize this and bring it hopefully to the next council meeting for approval.
I would also add that we did look at all options. We looked at JLG lifts, you know, the self-contained lifts that you see when the Christmas tree
Right.
goes up. We looked at all options just to try to make sure we get the most cost-effective thing for the needs of all the departments. And Darren said we were all consulted. It was kind of like a little mini committee with all staff members. And as far as pricing them out, and I've only been here for 2 years, but I would say that the consensus was that we were having those in the budget, and they kept getting pushed out to the point where ultimately we can't even, it's getting to the point we can't even use them. So we're going to get through this year till we can get these trucks delivered so we can continue operations throughout all the departments.
So these 2 bucket trucks are going to be out of the budget for the Parks Department, correct?
Yes, it was in the Parks and Recreation Department's budget, and it'll be paid out of the half-cent capital improvement, or existing capital improvement sales tax. One of the things also I failed to talk about is that we can trade in, or they will take in a trade-in for our 2 existing trucks where the other companies would not take that trade-in.
Well, I was just thinking about the budget. If every department's going to be using it, could we take a little bit out of each department instead of taking the whole?
It pretty much all comes out of the same fund. It's just, it was identified to Parks and Recreation.
It's capital improvement sales tax, so it doesn't really.
From this,
Yeah, it's
from the
last one.
current capital improvement sales tax.
Correct.
And John is right, because you're right, that kept getting pushed off last few years.
Yeah, we've been
Didn't have the
talking about it
funds
for 3 or 4 years, and it kept on getting pushed off from year to year to year, then.
all the departments use it, just Tony and Kevin are making Darren do all the work here, that's all.
I make a motion to send that to council.
Second.
We have a motion by Sullentrup, seconded by Patke, to send this on to council. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? By your vote, you've sent it on. Thank you.
My next item is the pool contract for operations. As you may be aware, our contract that we had with Midwest Pool for the past several years expired this year. We went out for RFPs for a new contract. We only had one company that submitted a proposal, and that's Midwest Pool again. We're trying to finalize the details with that right now. However, from a financial standpoint, it looks like that we're going to be roughly between $30,000 and $35,000 less than what we had budgeted. It did raise in some areas, the way that this contract is written, there's like 3 or 4 different categories. One is a management fee, one is a maintenance and operations fee, and the other is a lifeguards not to exceed type fee. And another one is for like our rentals and programs, there's lifeguarding and other fees for that. So it's somewhat complicated, but some areas of the contract is a little bit higher than what it was in the past, and there's a few areas that are lower. And this is based off, since they've been operating our pool for the past probably about 7 to 8 years, that they've looked at those average numbers and we're able to be a little more precise in the cost.
What is the amount?
It's going to be roughly right around $150,000.
Any questions or comments on that?
Our emergency management director can't do that job? Hire lifeguards, train lifeguards? Perfect.
And basically, this is a 1-year contract with the option for 2 additional years on a yearly basis, and this is basically due depending on what happens with the next half-cent sales tax and building a new facility.
That $150,000 is for 1 year.
That is for the first year, and it does increase a little bit each year, but they are minor increases.
And did you say that was less than it was?
In the past, we did a 3-year contract with 2 additional years.
On a 10-week program, that's $15,000 a week.
And the biggest cost of that is staffing.
So that includes the cost of the lifeguards and staff?
Yes, that's,
Okay.
yeah, that's all chemical, staffing, supplies, materials.
Water?
Insurance, not water. Water is on us.
We've talked about this through Parks Department for years, and I keep bringing it up every year. Is it something we need to have, or can we do it? But it ends up being the only way out. I mean, and they pay for it. Other than the last time we talked about it was a city staff and keep them on staff, but then they're cutting great, you know, if it was something in the wintertime, it'd be different. They'd be doing it now, but to add that many people to staff, it's a problem. I'd suggested before, but not so much.
Looking for a motion?
Yes, please.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Got to have it.
Okay, we have a motion by Selinsgrove, seconded by Brinker, I guess to approve or to move on to council the information regarding the pool contract. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Did you say no?
I did.
Okay. By your vote, you approved moving that on. Thank you.
I don't have anything else to report.
Could you do a report on the big-ass fans?
The big-ass fans they've been in our possession for several months. We have 2 volunteer electricians who are going to install them. I talked to them probably this last week, and they're trying to get to a point where they can put them in. They're busy both. Well, one of them's busy with his current job, so they're trying to work it in to get it in this spring.
So we'll be up for this year.
Yes.
Anything else?
Community and Economic Development and Planning.
Sal?
Yeah, on the economic development front, we're continuing negotiations on a couple of our land deals to close. We'll hopefully have some more information for Lot 25 at the next council meeting. We've gone back to the company on them on some terms of the tax abatement and continued some negotiations that went well. So we've moved the closing of Lot 12 with Magnet from the end of this month to February 7th. That was just because of scheduling on their front. They're traveling from the East Coast, and that's just an easier time for them to get into town to sign for the closing. And that actually gave us a little bit more time to get the sewer line scheduled, because if you remember, we're going to move that as part of the closing. So once we get some construction plans from them, we'll get a schedule on moving that sewer line. I have a meeting Wednesday with the Career Center this week with the professional development, giving them our 2018 prospects. And then for our 353 as a subcommittee of the land acquisition committee. And they've met, and we're continuing to meet on, not meeting this week, but from here on out, hopefully on a weekly basis until we can get some direction on where they would like to go next, whether we look at some additional land or first right of refusals, or even possibly getting some third-party developers interested, and then we would just help market and solicit grants, federal and state grants. So we'll hopefully have some more information for you on that next month. On the planning front, today was a deadline for the February agenda. We did get quite a few applications in. There's an annexation, a rezoning, and another preliminary plat for the next phase of the Overlook Weber Farms, which is good. I think it's an additional 22 lots. So that's just some more good movement on there to add to our increasing in residential building permits. We also have a couple other random applications on there as well that you'll see at your second meeting in February on Tuesday the 20th. And then on the downtown chamber tourism front, the presentation made by PJV on the hotel study. They have the study complete. They sent it to us, and then we went back with some comments that we had some concerns from our committee. They have addressed those. They planned on coming on the first meeting in February, which they could still do. However, I'm going to be out at a conference for the winter conference, MEDC conference in Jefferson City. So since there's no real hurry on that, I think we may move that to the second meeting in February as well, so I can be present for that. And then they're also, even though it wasn't in the contract, they're going to come out a second time and give an individual presentation to the Tourism Commission, which meets they meet twice a year, and so their next meeting is February 27th. So that just happens to be good timing, since if we push that back, they can come back twice that week and make a presentation to them. The TIF district's moving along. The phase 2 will be starting this month. If you can see what we approved, the replat, the amendment, that's the second site. They've already begun groundwork. The plans for the actual building plans were submitted today. And then I was told by the developer that they plan to do the 4 units there along Market and front, get those framed, and then actually start on the 5-story, 75-foot building on the other across the street on the other side of Market and front. So you'll be seeing both of those with the bricklayers and the scaffolding up there doing it at the same time. The taller building does fall under the mid-level sky skyrise, right, Chief? I think you said for the, regardless, there's going to be some extra protections there because of the height of the building, so we may have to have market closed for a period of time. We think rather than having them closed on individual days, maybe easier just to close for while the work is going on. So we'll make sure everyone is in the loop on that and getting announcements on street closures. And along with that, the utility, Barry, will move forward once we get a contract from Mark Piontek's office that we will get all the meter boxes replaced on individual property owners. And then the next, we are still planning on moving forward on the next phase of utility relocation in 2018. That would be going from Lafayette down to Oak. So, and that's all I have. If you have any questions for me.
Any questions?
Do you get any, it's your tourism or when you're doing the study for the hotels, is it, anybody brought up the Airbnb affecting any of it?
Well, we met with them about halfway through the study, and they actually asked us if they wanted to include that in the number of rooms that as our occupancy rating, and we actually told them just to not include it, because those that can be turned on and off with the click of a button by the homeowner, so it's hard to gauge if those are really rooms available that we have. I think it's a different style of lodging. I don't know if it necessarily falls into the exact same hotel category. Hopefully we come back, that study comes back and shows there is some type of demand without, I think the overflow definitely goes into Airbnbs, but I don't think it necessarily will affect our occupancy rating, so.
Okay.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Public Services, Engineering.
Okay, I will also be reporting for John McCurry tonight as well. Try to keep this short. Approximately 6 weeks ago, FEMA contacted the city regarding our flood insurance rate maps. I know we went through this back in 2010/11 and then again in 2012. They made it known that they are actually back in town doing another look at the maps. I'm not sure how much discussion was done back then, but the goal back then was to bring everything up to a digital quality to where they could review the maps on a much more frequent basis. And I know the city was very proactive in developing those maps and making them extremely accurate for the time. I would argue that they're some of the most accurate maps in the St. Louis area. In doing so, I've had a preliminary meeting with FEMA, the representatives, and their consultants on who's doing those map revisions. I've provided them some of the information, some of the data. What I've been told is that I would not expect a complete overhaul like we had in 2011. I believe that they feel that those additional studies that the city paid for are satisfactory, and it should save them some time, save them some money. So we hope that they'll go through that review, make sure the maps are accurate again, and then move on to other locations in the county. I will let you know as that kind of progresses, but that's what I know at this time.
So there's a chance of some people coming out of it?
There's always that chance, yes, but there's also the chance of people going in. So right now, I have not been made aware that there's a vast overhaul like we had last time, where you're moving 35, 50 lots on a branch of creek, or you'll see base flood elevations rising 4 foot, for example, like we saw the last time around. I do not believe that would happen.
Bishop Rockenberg back in 11.
Yeah, there were actually two contracts.
They did the Bush Creek.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
And I personally was on both of those teams. So, so far it doesn't sound like it's a vast overhaul. I'm not really concerned at this time. But
Really any changing development.
no, and that's what I've told them. So I don't have a whole lot of information to give you other than just to make everyone aware that FEMA will be contacting the city and we'll be going through that process a little bit again. So we'll just wait to see. Regarding the landfill, I think we all, with the previous council meeting, got some idea of where that's going with that March 30th deadline for the grading. So that's moving along fairly well. So I think the big thing right now is just hoping for some good weather and get this dirt moved, and then get our consultants sped up as fast as we can so we can transition quickly into getting that liner built. I have talked to landfill staff a little bit. They are seeing a reduction that they feel that they're seeing with tonnage being brought to the landfill. So I've not seen the numbers yet, so I can't quantify that, but they feel like some of the haulers are not utilizing the landfill as much as possible. That's the exact goal we were trying to find that contingency in time. I would add that on a quarterly basis, we're going to keep reviewing tipping fees. Right now, they're at $80 a ton. Potentially, they would go down. They could fluctuate more. We just don't know until we start seeing the dollars come in and who's utilizing the landfill. So we're going to stay on that much more diligently. I know I haven't spoke about Bluff Road in a while. Right now, the plans have been to MoDOT. They did give us comments back. I've advised our consultants that I would like those turned around by Friday, Friday of this week. I think that's a little aggressive, but I want to be aggressive on that. Tentatively, and I stress tentatively, there's an April 2nd start date to that project with a July 20th completion date. Now, MoDOT has not necessarily approved the plans. That could get shifted out a little bit, but we do have a 2-week contingency before the fair, and the majority of that work would be done before the fair. So I'm pretty confident we're going to be in pretty good shape. My plan is to, once we actually get that date nailed down in stone, I will be getting another public forum meeting scheduled with the industries and just getting everything out just to kind of bring everybody back together to let them know what's going on. I will stress again that this is not going to be a pleasant project, not only for the citizens of Washington, but the workers that come into our city. Bluff Road, it will be shut down for 2 to 3 months. So remember, that is a main access to get to the industrial park. So you will see more traffic through the park system. West Main and Vosbrink. There's some side distance issues on 100. Temporary signals are going to go up. So, I mean, it's going to be a little bit of a, we're all going to have to work together and understand that there will be light at the end of the tunnel towards middle summer. In addition to West Main, we do have that sidewalk improvement project to continue tying as many subdivisions as we can to our downtown facilities. That project is going to be staggered again after Bluff Road. Since that's our secondary source into the industrial park, I can't have 2 projects going on at one time. That would cause well, it would not be good. So we're going to stagger that towards the end of summer. As soon as Bluff Road's done, that project will start. So keep in mind that we're going to try to get these things done as quick as we possibly can. That project will be much slower. I'm still seeing if I want to shut down that section of road or if I just want to try to work with some traffic control to keep it open. So I don't know that yet, but I'm thinking my way through that. Recycling, I'll hit on that a little bit. Tony did get some bids on a recycling truck. He might hit on that a little bit. But we did apply for a $25,000 grant through Boonslick Regional Planning. I hope to know by next month if we're going to get that grant. That grant would go towards this recycling truck, single-stream recycling truck. So I feel pretty good about it. We'll see what they say. So we're going to try to at least gather as much money as we can. ADA transition plan, it's been approved by, the contract's been approved by MoDOT. That'll start hopefully next week. So hopefully we'll get consultants in town and get that going. It has a March deadline, I believe, and which will be just in time for the STP applications through East-West Gateway. So that point system that I was telling you about, that is playing out. The ADA transition plan will have a significant point value to it, and we're going to be done right before the applications go out. So we will get that in this round, which is perfect. It was decent timing. Airport layout plan and master plan is still at MoDOT. I trust that they're doing everything they can to get it reviewed and back to us. Lighting, I know there's some contract with Cassette Electric to get the lighting on the sign. I have been working with the owner, and he's indicated he will get to that very quickly. So we were next on his list, and I will continue to put the pressure on.
Is the Bluff Road project with the temporary signals, is that all going to be one contract?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, there'll be a prime contractor. I mean, it's a significant project. We have, with the box culvert component to it, I mean, that's a pretty heavy civil project. I mean, it's a 9x10 box with some pretty good, there's an 8-inch gas line, there's fiber that runs through there. So I think we'll get some competitive numbers. I mean, it's a decent sized project. I will say that in that grant, there were no dollars identified for replacing of that box culvert. There were no dollars identified for that temporary signal. So, I mean, that's a $50,000 signal. So what I've been doing is moving, I requested $50,000 from Franklin County from the Transportation Committee. We did get those dollars. I also utilized something they call non-attributable funds that have to be used up by 2019. Those dollars are going to be utilized for the West Main sidewalk. We have $240,000. 120 of that's for the West Main sidewalk, 120 of that's going to Bluff Road. So I've tried to identify some projects we already had on to utilize it. So I'm trying to get as much grant money as I can, with the remaining portion of that potentially looking at stormwater because of that box culvert replacement. It just wasn't identified when the grant was applied for. If you guys get a chance to go and, if you ever look down in it, you would see why it needs to be done. You can't put 6 foot of fill over metal pipes that are not in the best shape. So.
And run tractor trailers over them.
5,000 a day, I believe.
5,000 a day?
I think that's the number. But no concern about any,
Yeah, right.
catastrophic problem.
I'll go around.
Just so we know. But they are egg-shaped pretty good, so round goes. So, anyway.
Any questions, comments?
And then I'll do building too, if you guys. Real quick on building, we have essentially 5 subdivisions that are getting homes constructed: Mount Carmel, Stonecrest, the Overlook at Weber Farms, Villa at Weber Farms, and Weber Farms. So everybody's utilizing a lot of inventory that we have. I think that's evident with the next phase of Weber Farms. So those guys are running crazy. They're doing everything they can to keep up. I understand that permits are lagging behind, but we're doing everything we can to prioritize. So just to keep everyone understanding that it's busy. It's very busy. I don't have the numbers of what those are, but the last check, I think it was, we've done the most since 2006.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we've been reiterating that to you all.
It's a good thing.
That's good.
More the merrier.
Okay.
Street and solid waste.
Good evening. We, Street Department's been out for bid for a new leaf vacuum machine, and we do have those bids back, and I think by the next council meeting, we'll have that for you guys to finalize. We're also, as John said, we are working through our bids for our new recycle truck. We have narrowed it down to 2 trucks, and we're just really trying to get some details worked out on that. And we are also in the process of putting together some estimates for some mobile litter fence out at the landfill. It's something we've needed for a while, and with the change of direction with the landfill, we're going to go ahead and try to press forward with those. We looked at some companies out of state that have them pre-manufactured, and we're also getting some bids from some local vendors to build them for us, which might be a better option. So we'll keep you informed on that. We do have some work to do up at the Burger Park landfill, as we consider it. We do work with the parks on that to get that straightened out. We're finishing the removal of the old fire training tower. If anybody's been down there lately, it's pretty much just a skeleton now. So hopefully by the next day or 2, it will be down. We'll be working on the conduit project on Jefferson, and then we'll be doing some more work out at the rifle range this next couple weeks.
Any questions of Tony?
The recycle, we're still leaning towards a single, or how do we say that? Single stream, right, that we're going to get, and we're moving forward with that. Is that correct?
That's a go. I mean, that's a go. We've got the bids for the truck, and
Okay.
we're moving forward.
So then we got to look at the fact that we're going to keep the green tubs, or whether we're going to need bigger green tubs, and all that kind of stuff is going to be future.
The idea is let's get the single stream up and running operationally so we don't have any hiccups on our end.
Sure.
And then we'll look to expand. I think we reported that the concept was really what we'd like to do, the goal would be is to expand to cardboard pickup at the curb. That is not the case right now, but that would be really the goal here, is that we can expand to that with the Amazon situation. And,
right.
Cardboard is not the best thing to put in your landfill. So that's really the big goal. And within that, we would look at the tub situation. Everything's on the, is up for grabs to look at. So I think the first step is getting our operations up and running.
Right, and that's, people have asked me about it, but I'm just like, we got to get this first, and then we'll see where we can go.
It's going to be,
increase.
I mean, honestly, you're looking at midsummer before we even get the truck in. So it's going to take a little bit of transition.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Tony, John?
Water and wastewater.
Kevin?
Hello, everyone. Actually, really don't have a lot to report tonight. The wastewater side, everything's running good. Everything's staying where it's supposed to be. The treatment plant's functioning in really good shape. Always having good low numbers discharging out to the Missouri River, which is always a good thing. On the water side, we've had a few water main breaks. We've had roughly about 8 of them in the last 2 months. We just fix them when they pop up. We did have to replace a fire hydrant today. The tractor trailer truck decided to run over, which was rather interesting. They pumped about 200,000 gallons of water on the ground, which we'll be billing the insurance company for. And next month, we will be starting on the Crestview water towers, so they're going to start seeing a lot of activity up there. So.
Any questions of Kevin?
Finance.
Thank you.
Included in your packet are the November and December collectors' reports. Also, audit field work is complete. They finished up at the end of December. This year was the first year since I've been here that they haven't had to come back in January, so that's really, really good news. And also, I just wanted to give you a quick update on the 2012 debt refunding. When Michelle with Piper Jaffray was here back in December, she took the information at that point, our preliminary statement, took it to the underwriters, got it posted on the out to public for sale. It has to be posted so long in advance before they can actually go out for sale. And by the time they went out for sale, the bond market was flooded, which normally happens in December. And also the tax reform hit, which didn't really affect our bond because it's a current refunding, but basically advanced refundings were eliminated from the tax law at the end of December. So everybody that needed to advance refund their bonds flooded the market, and they tried to get that done. So the market's supply and demand, basically. So what happened is when she was here, we had a savings of approximately $900,000 to $1 million. Within that week, that dropped by like $350,000. So we made the decision internally to let that ride a little bit, get through December, get to January, and see where the market was. As of a week ago, the market had not recovered. Basically, also what happened too, just to give you some information, the federal funds rate, they raised their rate in December, which also had an effect on it. So right now, we are at about approximately $592,000 of savings. So the decision was made to let that ride for another week or two and see where we're at, and hopefully then that will recover. We need it to recover about 11 basis points, and then we will be ready to sell the bonds. They are ready at any time, they just need the go-ahead because everything's been posted. So I just wanted to let you know why we haven't actually sold the bonds yet. So, and we'll go from there. But.
What, remind us what's the longest time that we can wait before we have to, there's not.
There isn't a time limit. No, if we decide not to sell the bonds, we're not out anything. So they just don't get paid.
Right.
So we can wait as long as we would want.
So we could wait even longer to see if the market continued to recover.
We could, however, the federal funds rate is projected to go up 2 to 3 times this year, and it's due again. It's quarterly, so in March it could possibly be raised again. If that happens, then more than likely that savings is going to drop even further. So.
Shoulda in November, but now we're just waiting for our best opportunity.
Well, you have to get that,
I understand.
all that in
Right.
place, but I mean, at any time the market can change. I mean, it changed within that week $400,000. And then it's went up since then, but it hasn't went up back up to what they projected. So.
Any other questions of Mary, or Mary, is that everything? Okay.
Information technology.
Robert?
Hello. Been working with Kevin, and his guys have been swapping cameras out on city buildings to get them all on the same platform. Aside from that, we're working with Matt Wilson on AV and cameras for this room, microphones and cameras, sorry. And the microphones, I believe we talked about being around $10,000. And the cameras are an additional around $15,000. So I just want to let you know about that, and then see if we could move ahead on that project. It's about $25,000 total.
Is there a capability, so like when there's presentations on the screen, I had some feedback from people that have been watching the stream saying that it's really muddy and they have a difficult time seeing it. Is there any way to have, with what you're talking about, the laptops directly put what's on the screen with on the stream?
We're looking at that.
Okay.
Yeah. I'll talk to Matt about it as well, just to make sure. But with the higher definition cameras that we're looking at getting, I think it'll be very clear, even if we weren't able to do that.
Yeah, he said that was included in that price.
Okay.
Okay.
He did, because we asked about that.
Okay.
And then I know we have it on the board there, just to remind everybody, we are broadcasting on YouTube now. And then I've been working with some tech companies in the area, one out of St. Louis, two local tech companies, to get quotes on block time, just so we can evaluate where we're sitting on block time right now that we're utilizing and how much we're paying for it in comparison to other companies, just to kind of try to stay on top of it so we don't end up paying more than we really need to. And then I'm hoping to bring that to you guys for review next council meeting. And aside from that, we've got the landfill squared away, taking credit cards, and I've been staying on top of trouble tickets as best I can. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Where are we with being able for people to see the past meetings, the video from the past meetings? I know that now they can see the streaming, but they can't watch past video.
I will look into that and get back to you.
Claire, I'll let you ask him when it's your turn, okay?
Okay.
Any other questions of Robert?
Library?
Okay, so I sent over 2 different months' worth of reports. We did not meet in December, so we made a record number, from what I can see, of cards in November, actually 86 in 1 month. That's 20 of them were Washington patrons. So that means the rest of them were scenic patrons, but they all use our library too. And we had higher circ in December than last year, so that was good. We were a little bit lower in November. We had the Yule Ball at the City Auditorium, and we had about 200 people come, so we were really excited about that. Blacklight bubbles from the Bubble Bus was really fun for the kids, and they play music with it, and they were dancing and having fun. And if you haven't seen the Missourians photo slide show of everything, you need to go and look at it, because I think Jeannie was there for an hour having fun with that. We had close to 600 people attend our programs in November, and a little less than December, but we're still averaging around 10,000 people coming through the doors every month. We actually got up to 10,500 this time, so we're staying busy. I talked about in my board meeting a little bit ago that we're averaging about 70 uses of the library, and about 50 of them are library stuff. So we are heavily utilized. Sometimes, we have to turn people away, honestly. And so I think that's a good thing that they think of us as an option, and we're prime real estate for those meetings. So we are working on replacing our routers. Robert has 2 that he can install for me. We just need to figure out a software that will count people that are on so that I can report back for that. And we are still, I'm looking at grants quite a bit right now for some other programs and things I want to do. I am very interested in getting credit cards machines up at the library, and there's some different options that I can do so that our patrons can pay, because a lot of them do, when they print 50 pages, they'd rather be able to take their card out and pay. So we're working on that.
I guess that was my comment when we left the library meeting a while ago. She asked about looking into a company to accept credit cards, and I know we're going through it with the Tyler system for the parks. Is that something that we can add to or piggyback with to the library too, to accept that for payments? Is that an option?
The difference would be that I think those other departments are actually utilizing the Tyler software.
Yeah.
Into that,
Okay.
but the library is not using it for cash taking.
It's similar to like what we did at Big Driver. They did their own credit card machine out there, vending machine.
Gotcha.
So they would have to do the same thing because it's not linked through Tyler. In order for it to be a credit card transaction, you have to put something in Tyler to tell it to charge it.
But should we not have that for the library?
Well, I'm not saying you should or shouldn't. I'm just saying it can't be connected through Tyler. So that's why
Right, I
she's
think-
looking at
right.
different ways to do that.
Right. But my comment was, she's looking at different ways, and I'm like, we're getting on the same page with everyone else in the city. We're going to let the library not that we want to let them not, but it should be something that we look into to get it all compatible and the same. And then the other thing was a few concerns as far as cameras inside the library. So I don't know if these are usable there, or if while we're getting a few cameras, or what we have.
Already on top of it.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Okay, anything else, Claire? Okay, thank you.
Human Resources?
Shauna?
Good evening. I just wanted to report on hiring. We have 2 roles that are open and are in the interview process. Those were our maintenance worker 1 in the water department and dispatch trainee. Those are in initial interview process, and we'll begin that this week. And then we have 2 other roles that we just placed an ad this past weekend, started running in the Missourian, maintenance worker 1 in the parks department, and also building inspector. We also will be placing that building inspector opening on some industry job boards that we've been notified that are good job boards to look on for those industry professionals. And then we will also begin this week the placement of an ad for our parks seasonal staff. And that's what we have as far as hiring and interviewing process for now. And then we are in the process of new time clock for our Tyler system. That was, I believe, already handled before I was here. Mary was added to the Tyler system, but we are in the process of starting that to update our time clock. Our current time clocks at all facilities will be updated to a system that is a Tyler system that will integrate with our current payroll system, so kind of a seamless import, and it will update, and we're working on the very beginning phases, planning, making sure it's compatible with our policies and procedures, and then we will start a pilot. There will be a pilot program that we can test to make sure it's working alongside our current program, and we hope to implement this by March is the date right now. We're working with implementation team, of course. There's a schedule that we can follow along and make sure as we go along we're getting that feedback. So we're working on that. And then just as a reminder, we shared that our new benefits year plans start 2/1. So any of our council members who have those benefits, the new plan year does start 2/1. And so if you have any questions about that, I'd be happy to answer any of those questions you may have or any concerns you have about those.
Any questions of Shauna? Okay, thank you.
City Clerk, I am still working with AT&T rep to hopefully minimize our mobility bill. That's quite an undertaking. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Okay.
Administration.
I just have 2 items in executive session for you. We've had a long night, so that's all I have unless you have questions.
Okay. Any questions? What?
I have one real quick question. I know this doesn't really pertain to us, but I had somebody ask me. The license bureau, they moved from here, they're moving out to the square there?
Mhm.
Isn't that more than a mile away?
It is, but
It is.
apparently they can do what they want.
Apparently, I guess, like I said, that was a rule that we thought that they had to abide by as well. But it's my understanding that, my guess would be is that that was part of their package that they submitted to go ahead and provide that service versus the chambers.
Yeah, I know we don't have any control over it, just kind of.
Right.
Yeah, that's what we were told, but, and really not even as the crow flies would that be a
Washington
mile,
Square.
I don't think. So.
Interesting.
yeah. All right, anything else?
We gotta go in executive session.
Oh,
Okay, so we need
Why you're
to,
not getting a second. Robert, before you leave, I got a question.
okay, Mary, do you want to take a vote to go into executive?
Public vote on whether or not to hold a closed meeting to discuss personnel, legal, and real estate matters pursuant to Section 610.021 RSMO 2000. Brinker? Yes. Holtmeyer?
Aye.
Moheski?
Yeah.
Patchke?
Yes.
Scornia?
Yes.
Zolentrop?
yes.
Waterman?
Yes.
Thank you all for being here.